I was stepping out of the car because the coffee had gone cold, and the meeting could wait. And there she was, small as a shadow, beside a dented trash can, barefoot on filthy concrete, while the city just flowed around her like water around a rock. A guy in a suit sidestepped two teenagers, lifted their phones for a selfie with a mural nobody bent down. Is anybody going to help her? I heard my own voice cut through traffic, and when no one answered, I knelt palm to her ribs, counting the faint rise like I was holding a bird that might fly away. Hey, you with me? Her eyelids fluttered. Water, she rasped. I tipped the last swig from a bottle she swallowed, and that's when I saw the thing on her wrist. A black band, not plastic, no clasp, no seams, a red pulse blinking like a second heart. I lifted my phone to snap a photo. The screen flickered, died hard like the band was laughing at me. I'm Cole, I said, because names anchor you when everything else is slipping. What's yours, Zuri? She whispered, and then her body went slack against my arm. Yeah, that happened. I carried her to the car, told my driver, Mercy Children's now, and we took corners fast enough to make the tires talk. Halfway there, she stirred, voice athread. Don't take me back. You're safe, I said, squeezing her hand so she could feel it. I'm not taking you back to anyone. They said we're not real kids, she whispered. Nobody cares if we disappear. I have heard a lot of ugly sentences in boardrooms and briefings, but that one took something out of me and lit something else on fire. ER doors, nurses with their game faces on a gurney vanishing through double doors under lights that make everyone look guilty. A nurse came back with a zipper bag and gloves. We removed this, she said, setting the black band on a tray. Up close, it looked worse, like someone forged a shadow and decided to call it a bracelet. CPS has been alerted, she added. Protocol. Good, I said, but keep her off the grid. She's not lost, she's hunted. I stepped into a quiet consult room, pulled my backup phone, the one that doesn't exist, and called a number I swore I'd deleted. You only dial me when your hair's on fire, Jonah grumbled. I've got Aegis, I said. Silence, then a low whistle. I thought that file went into a furnace. Me too. 6 years old, black, wearing a band that killed my comms. Bring the hardware to the console, he said. I'll scrub the signal hunt for echoes. 10 minutes later, he came back on a secure line. It's not a tracker, he said, it's an EMR, effective modulation regulator. Reads emotional spikes, clamps them down. Shock collar for the limbic system. And it's riding a closed satellite band. Military flavor. They're still running it, I said. Looks that way, he said. People assume money makes you colder. It really just makes you run out of excuses. I sat by Zuri's bed that night and watched her hold my hand like a lifeline, eyes too old, voice small. Do I have to go back? No, I said. And it came out like a vow I couldn't take back even if I wanted to. You don't. At dawn, I had a trail. The firmware stamp on the band read Aegis 13Q. Back when I did government work, Aegis EMR was pitched like therapy. Resilience training for traumatized kids, charts and white walls and clean words like optimization. I'd walked when the word compliance showed up. Now the band had led us to Gray Point. Old ferry tunnels under the harbor, off the grid on paper, still drawing power if you knew where to look. I found a hatch buried in vines, climbed down into air that tasted like pennies and mold, followed the hum to a door labeled Observation 3 keypad dead panel, scarred from a crude bypass. Inside was a nursery, if a prison architect designed it. Rows of tiny beds with straps at the corners. 4 poles lined up like obedient soldiers, walls padded to swallow sound. Papers everywhere like someone tried to pack and ran out of nerve. Progress logs, dosage schedules, compliance scores. Folder subject A13Q, Zuri, background ward of state. Treatment phase 3. Side effects. Memory blanks. I took photos, hands steady enough to make me mad at myself, and that's when I heard the soft click behind me that your body recognizes before your brain does. "Drop it," a voice barked. "Black tactical gear visor down, rifle up." "I just came for the truth," I said. "You're interfering with national security." "Children strapped to beds isn't security," I said. "It's a crime." He didn't blink, and then another voice cut in, cool as a lab freezer. "Mr. Harrington." She stepped into view like she owned the hallway. White coat over dark clothes, hair braided tight, eyes bright and cold. "Dr. Malik," I said. The last time I saw her name, it was on a paper about resilience in hostile environments. "You disappeared." "I translated my work into practice," she said. "The world is burning. War, collapse, unrest. These children will survive because of us. By breaking them first, we calibrate," she said. "Not missing a beat, we build armor where there was none." "You built a leash," I said, "and locked it to a satellite." A flicker. Then the lights snapped red, and the siren began to howl. "You'll regret this," she said. "You already do," I told her, and ran. Vents, rust, daylight boots behind me, Jonah in my ear. "Got the stream moving data, you've got 2 minutes before company." And like that, the truth had oxygen. Back at Mercy, Zuri was awake, her hand drifting to the place where the band had been like a ghost itch. "It's gone," I said, "but this isn't over. I need your help." We sat on the office floor, her bear tucked under her chin, and she drew. Vents, hallways, a room with a single chair facing a blank wall. In big, careful letters, "Quiet room." Names, too, the ones that stick when you try to forget. Dr. Kira, a man they called Captain a Bird, with wires for feathers stamped on doors. Jonah matched the drawings to a desert site outside Sunvale, the kind of place you only visit on maps. "Red Mesa Annex," he said, decommissioned allegedly. "We go," I said. "We leak in waves," he shot back. "Don't tip the whole table." "We also get kids out," I said. "Both can be true." The safe house was a mountain cabin that used to host veterans who needed quiet. 2 panic rooms, satellite link cupboards full of canned soup. Zuri slept under flannel and named her thrift store Bear Justice like she wanted to speak something into existence. Then Sunvale. Heat making the air squirm, horizon pretending to be forever. The hatch on Red Mesa was newer steel on old bones. We weren't alone. A young woman waited by the fence with her hands up. "I'm Tamsin," she said. "I wrote code for them. I need to make it right." You know what I mean when I say the voice shakes, but the eyes don't. We went in together. White tile, the antiseptic smell of wiped metal, a wall of photos with numbers where names should be. The server still breathing. "Old roots are intact," Tamsin whispered, fingers flying. On the screen, Project Keep. Active subjects. State codes, health data transfer routes. 7 marked missing, which in this world doesn't mean lost, it means erased. Footsteps, rifles, a quiet curse, and then desert night swallowing us whole as we ran stars like holes in the dark. The twist, if you want to call it that, was ugly and simple. It wasn't one lab, it was a network scattered on purpose, shielded by words that make regular people's eyes glaze over. So we built our own network. We called it North Star. Lawyers, counselors, advocates, people who used to work for the machine and couldn't sleep anymore. The first rescue wasn't cinematic. It was an old warehouse outside Ridgeview, that smelled like dust and bleach. 3 kids behind a false wall, dazed, dehydrated, clutching each other like raft passengers. One of them whispered, "They said no one would come." They were wrong, I told him, and felt my voice break on the last word. Hearings followed because powerful people hate daylight until they need it. I sat under hot lights and told a room full of important faces how a kid on a sidewalk led me into the ground. The halberd lawyer asked, smooth as glass, if I was leveraging a child's drawing and my wealth to inflame the public. "I'm leveraging the truth," I said, "because you buried yours under NDAs and drywall." Tamsin testified, hands trembling, voice clear. Jonah pulled up maps that looked like spider webs you only notice after you walk through them. Zuri recorded a short statement from a private room, no face on camera, just her voice. "My name is Zuri. I was brave before they took me. I'm still brave now. Please find the other kids." Not dramatic, just clean truth that cut through the noise. We didn't win every round. Some sites went dark before we got there. A man with expensive shoes and no badge showed up at Mercy, asking about protective relocation, which is how predators say kidnapping when they're wearing cologne. We burned phones, changed routes, slept in shifts. Zuri had nights where the quiet room came back and she woke up mid-apology, little hands shaking, and we held her until they stopped. She kept helping anyway. Peppermint breath, a ring tapping a glass table, tiny details that broke open bigger doors. People like to argue about heroics. I'm not a hero. I'm someone who ran out of excuses. Money gave me leverage, that's all. What changed everything was a 6-year-old who thought she wasn't real because a spreadsheet said so. The ending you want. Neat tied with a bow. I don't have that. What I have is a wall map where more and more pins have names and messy smiles and new favorite cereals. What I have is Zuri's drawing taped in the cabin hallway, kids stepping out of wire cages into sunlight. And under it in big, shaky letters, "Together we walk home." The last time I saw Dr. Malik up close, it was outside a hearing room. "You got what you wanted," she said. Attention, applause. "I got kids out," I said. She tilted her head. "You don't understand stakes. Children aren't kindling for your fire," I told her. Elevator doors closed. Maybe she's right about the world that's coming. Maybe we're building a different one. On the porch at dusk, Zuri squeezed my hand and said almost to herself, "I'm real." "You're the realest thing I know," I said. "That's my story, and it's still moving. If you made it this far, I want to hear yours. If a program breaks kids in the name of making them stronger, is that ever justice or just a prettier word for cruelty? Did the bystanders on the sidewalk do the worst harm, or the people in lab coats? Have you seen a quiet room with a different name at your school, your job, your hospital? Drop your take, argue with me, tell me what light you'd turn on first, because keeping the lights on, that's how we make sure no one disappears.